Welcome everybody. We better get started. You never know what's going to happen with the weather. I'm Charles Foster and I'm co-chairman of the Lyndon B. Johnson Presidential Monument Advisory Board, and I'd like to introduce my co-chair, David Jones. David in real life is the CEO and president of the George and Barbara Bush Foundation, and he's worked with his colleague Mark Updegrove in Austin with the LBJ Foundation. They've helped us a lot with the language and the history of LBJ for this monument. This, by the way, sometimes it's referred to as a statue, which always bothers me. This is going to be far more. On your program, you'll see the two semicircles. It will tell the story not only of Lyndon Johnson, his time, his history, but his great legislative achievements as well. And it will all be tied into the fact that we're now on this particular piece of land that, thanks to the city of Houston and our great mayor Sylvester Turner, is going to be the site of the Lyndon Johnson Presidential Monument. This site was previously dedicated to the shuttle astronauts that lost their lives, and we're going to incorporate their story into the monument, as well as we will also add the story of the Apollo 1 astronauts that died in testing Apollo 1 as well, all of which is totally appropriate given the fact that probably no one was more instrumental in our space program than Lyndon Johnson was as Senate Majority Leader, then as Vice President, and then of course as President of the U.S. He really led that effort that eventually led to what we celebrate across the street, Tranquility Park, the man landing on the moon that occurred just a few months after he retired from the presidency. So I'd like to introduce special guests. Everyone's very special, but representing our county commissioner, Rodney Ellis, his better half, his wife, Lucia Green Ellis. We want to acknowledge Rodney and the county for their support as well. Somewhere I saw City Council member Jack Christie. You still with it? There you are. You're out of uniform, Jack. Good seeing you, though. Also, I would like to introduce Laura Bellows. She is the CEO of Bellows Construction, and Jack Bellows, the president of Bellows Construction, and somewhere Brent Miller, who's the project manager. They're going to handle all the project development here. Brenton's in the back. Bellows has worked on a lot of important projects of a civic nature, including the something very special to me, the home of the Asia Society in downtown, in the museum district, I should say. David Mintzberg is here, who is with chairman of Houston First, so we're glad to have you. Advisory board members, Arthur Schechter, almost said Butch Schechter, and Harry Reisner. We thank you for your support. I would be remiss if I did not recognize Andy Aiken, who is not only the city's chief development officer, but has also served on the advisory board since day one as well. I also like to introduce a good friend, Benjamin Warren. Benjamin is the chairman, Benjamin Stand-Up, of the Houston Holocaust Museum, and that ties in because the Houston Holocaust Museum Houston, excuse me, that's very important to get it right. You don't want to say Houston Holocaust Museum Houston. They years ago decided to name their Moral Courage Award for President Johnson in honor of the fact that as a congressman before, during, and after World War II, he helped many Jewish refugees enter the U.S. at a time that our State Department was less than aggressive on that point. On a personal note, I'd like to say this. Boy, we got a lot of competition up there. Mayor, did you? I hope that's not Busby's. But maybe so. Maybe that's a better interpretation. I said yesterday in City Council, great cities have great public art, so it's appropriate that we do this here. not only because what President Johnson accomplished. It's often said that he passed more significant legislation. By the way, there's Bob Urey back there who does so much for the city as well. He passed more significant domestic legislation than all of the 9 presidents since. The 3 critical civil rights legislations that realized the dreams and aspirations of President Lincoln, his Immigration Act that literally changed the face of America, and so much more. And you're going to hear others, both the mayor and Lucy, speak of that. I would also, as I would, just skipping through my notes, would like to conclude by saying that it's an honor to be here, and now I'm privileged to introduce a great mayor of the city of Houston, Sylvester Turner, who's made all of this possible. Mayor Turner.
Charles has been very, very gracious in his comments with him as his vision, and certainly with David and all of you. We are out here today. I think that must be, a television helicopter that's flying over. They want to capture this particular moment, which is a good thing. But let me again just start off by thanking everyone. And Lucy Banks Johnson is Lucy, it's good to be with you again this morning, and thank you for being here, because you signify the significance of this moment for all of us. For those who grew up in the 50s, 60s, especially for those of us who are elected officials today, we grew up with the role model of Lyndon Baines Johnson. And I will tell you, I certainly read about him, saw him on television, was inspired by him, and so today is very, very special and personal for so many of us. Thank you again, Charles, for your work on this great project, and for all you do for our city and our nation on the front lines of immigration policy and foreign diplomacy. And thank you to C.K. Payne and the team at Gensler for turning this dream into bronze and brick. We are extremely fortunate to welcome Lucy Baines Johnson back to Houston. Can't wait to hear you speak. You remind me so much of your father and your mother. And so thank you for your graciousness and for being with us today. Your presence makes this event so much more dazzling. And I know that Commissioner Ellis would be here because he and I both admired so deeply your father. But it's always good to see his wife here representing him, but representing herself as well in her own capacity. Soon after graduating from what was then Southwest Texas State Teachers College, an humble but ambitious Lyndon Johnson from the back roads of Central Texas was determined to become a public school teacher, following in the footsteps of his Uncle George. He got a teaching job in Pearsall between San Antonio and the Mexican border, but at the same time, he asked his uncle for help finding a position in the city of Houston. For you see, George Johnson at the time was head of the history department at Sam Houston High School in North Houston, but the uncle was unable to help his nephew right away. And as LBJ recalled in a tape interview during his presidency, teachers were backed up for several blocks. Then, trying to get in Houston, it was the best system in the state and paid more and had tenure and all of that stuff. You didn't have to change every year, and they couldn't tell me for sure that they would need me until they could see if they had a runover in students. Houston was growing very fast. But eventually, the Houston job offer was made, and LBJ moved to Houston in 1930 and lived with his uncle in the Westmoreland addition near downtown. And by the next year, the Sam Houston High School team, with LBJ as its coach, won the district championship. But soon the restless Lyndon Johnson was looking for much bigger challenges, and he moved on. The rest is history, a history that has inspired dozens and dozens of books and video documentaries, a history that brings us here today, and a history that many of us turn to over and over again to find inspiration and courage in our own public endeavors. In fact, he was able to get things done, and he knew how to get things done. The privately funded LBJ Monument and surrounding features will be a tourist attraction, a history lesson, an inspirational gathering place, and a testament to how the persistence and dedication of one person can change the course of our city, state, nation, and the world. It is not by chance that just a few blocks north on Bagby Street is a statue of the late President Bush, whom we all miss very, very much. In Houston, we recognize our debt to great presidents without regard to political affiliation, but we do prize highly respected special persons like late presidents who spent formative years right here in our city. This city has been blessed, but quite frankly, the country has been blessed by his presence. His leadership still lives on. His courage, his bravery, his pragmatism, and how he got things done still lives on. It will be a reminder to us all that one person can make a difference if we decide to make a difference. And even when you're no longer physically present, your memory still lives on. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, David. And thank all of you. Thank you, Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Now, please welcome Lucy Baines Johnson, who needs no introduction, the youngest daughter of former President Lyndon Johnson.
It is such a joy for me to be back here in Houston, and especially on this day, to be able to thank those who are committed to public service in a way that just is a way of life for Houstonians. Because today there is a hole in my heart, as there is in the hearts of many people who love this great country. The loss of Elijah Cummings is indeed a loss that can never be fulfilled. But by gosh, weren't we grateful to have that kind of leadership. And by gosh, is it wonderful to be in Houston, where people not only invite you to lead, but remember that you tried. Thank you, Mayor Turner, Mr. Foster, and all who have given of their time, talent, and treasure to make this important day in the life of the Lyndon Baines Johnson Memorial Park. My sister Linda and I could not be more grateful. Mayor Turner, my father would have been deeply gratified by your part in this great day. However, he would have been proudest of your leadership for this great city. He fought so, thank you. He fought so hard to make it possible for talented people like you to be able to serve America. Your commitment to public service and your achievements for this city he loved would have been his dream come true. There are so many noble causes knocking on the door of Houston's conscience. So when Charles Foster asked our family to support a memorial to our father here, we understood this thoughtful idea might never materialize. I thought this because I hadn't yet come to know Charles Foster. Charles, like Lyndon Johnson, is a force of nature when it comes to a cause he believes in. He has brought together leadership without equal for this project, and he is making it happen. To your outstanding fundraising committee and every donor, big and small, to the renowned architectural and design firm Gensler and its talented architect for this project, C.K. Pang, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Oh, how my father loved this city. As you look around this great community, you see the revered names of Houston heroes, people like Herman and George Brown, and Roy Hoffines, and Wesley West, and Bill Hobby, and Eddie Skurlock, and Jack Blanton, Jack Valenti, John Conley, Joe Albrecht, and Barbara Jordan. For generations, These Houston heroes were the guardians of the gates of opportunity for their hometown. They were also the friends and mentors to Lyndon Johnson. For every name I have mentioned, and that should include, of course, the Bellows here, I know that there are many more who have made a big difference to Houston and to Daddy, and to each of you, I am very grateful. Houston gave Lyndon Johnson his first job after college, as you've just spoken, Mayor Turner, at Sam Houston High School. It provided him an opportunity and friendships he cherished every day of his life. You have been amongst our leaders to Lyndon Johnson's library and Lady Bird Johnson's Wildflower Center. You have made the Johnson Space Center an international gift to mankind. You have embraced my father's commitment to social justice, supported his endowment for the arts and humanities, led the fight to deliver a more equitable, compassionate, successful healthcare system. You have delivered not just tributes, but track records to Lyndon Johnson's work for a great society. The track record of NASA held a very special place in my father's heart. After pledging to land a man on the moon in a decade, President Kennedy chose Lyndon Johnson to head the National Aeronautics and Space Council. 8 years later, after President Kennedy was gone and Daddy had retired to Texas, NASA's charge to land a man on the moon was no longer a mission. It was simply a fact. Together with so many heroes here in Houston, the race in space has been one of great achievement, but as we know, not without great sacrifice. And now we meet at Little Tranquility Park, where we honor the great astronauts of Apollo 11 and Apollo 1. To honor our father on the same grounds you honor the heroes of the American space program would have meant a great deal to Daddy, and it does to us. Our hope is that this expression of Houston's love will inspire future generations of Houstonians to dream great dreams of service and make them all come true. On his birthday, August 27th, 1964, at the Democratic National Convention, Lyndon Johnson said, and I quote, "The contest is the same we have faced at every turning point of history. It's not between liberals and conservatives. It's not between party and party or platform and platform. It is between courage and timidity. It is between those who have vision and those who see what they can be and those who only want to maintain the status quo. It is between those who welcome the future and those who turn away from its promises. Daddy welcomed the future and all of its promises. He sought to build a great society that provided decent education, health care, clean air and water, support for the arts and the humanities, social justice for all of our people, knowledge that comes from the exploration of Earth and space. He sponsored hundreds of laws to make all of this possible. Houstonians helped him every step of the way. After President Nixon was sworn into office on January the 20th, 1969, we made our final departure to Texas from Maryland's Andrews Air Force Base. As we shook hands on the rope line of well-wishers, a familiar hand reached out to my father. It was the hand of George Herbert Walker Bush, a young Houston congressman whose father had served in the city Senate with Daddy. My father said, "George, why on earth are you here? You ought to be back at the Capitol celebrating with your fellow Republicans." George Bush's answer was simple. "I have come to say goodbye to my Texas president. It is the right thing to do." There were tears in my father's eyes, and I confess in my own. This young congressman could have been back in the rotunda celebrating a great victory and relishing every moment of it. Instead, he stood by us. Years later, the Lyndon Baines Johnson Foundation was blessed to stand by that former young congressman to do the right thing. We presented the Liberty and Justice for All Award to President George Herbert Walker Bush for his lifetime of selfless public service to our nation. It is our highest award for a public servant, and no one could ever have deserved it more. It was simply, Mayor Turner, the right thing to do. Doing the right thing is what Houstonians have done in times of trial and times of triumph for countless families, including my own. That's why being here for this groundbreaking means so very much to generations of Johnsons. My hope is that when people seek comfort from the tarmacs of life, they will come to this park and gaze upon a statue of Lyndon Johnson and recall how much my father cared and how hard he tried for Houston and for all of us. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now I have one PS to say. Mr. Mayor, you have shown your strength and endurance, and so have you, Charles Foster, as we've looked above us and tried to outspeak the sound of this helicopter. But I, for one, find it maybe a sign from on high that the helicopter that made it possible for Lyndon Johnson to win the Senate, and the rest was history, is Lyndon Johnson's presence one more time, hovering over us and trying to get all the rest of us to do the right thing. Thank you so much for having me here today. What a joy it is. I am so excited about this project. I can't stand it, and I guarantee you Daddy would be too. And for those of you who not noticed it, I look in the crowd and I see a very familiar hat. And it makes me think that there's more than just the three of us who remember him too. And for that, I am grateful.
Hello? Okay. Thank you so much, Lucy. You're, as the mayor said, you're an inspirational speaker, and you remind us so much of your father. It's my pleasure to introduce C.K. Payne with Gensler. C.K. actually retired from Gensler, but he, once he got started, he wanted to stick with this project. He had worked with David and I on the Bush Monument, and later on the Baker Monument and the Mosbacher Memorial Bridge. And it would be remiss if I didn't also, maybe you will, recognize Sharon Steinberg with Gensler, who's the actual project manager. C.K. Payne.
Hope it still works. Thank you, Mayor Charles, David, and Ms. Johnson. And many of you probably walked by this park hundreds of times, but never stepped in. We're going to change that. And I'm very honored to be part of this important project, working with our leaders, Charles and David, and the artist Chase Fagan, and also the landscape architect Lauren Griffin. To bring this project to this point has been incredible fulfilling. And I have no doubt Bellows will bring it to life successfully. Beyond the opportunity to design this monumental tribute to such a deserving leader, this project is very personal for me. It is because LBJ's immigration bill that doors were open to other countries and continents, like Asia, where I'm from. LBJ has allowed my family and many other immigrant families who now live in America the chance to serve, to contribute, and make a difference in this great country. As a designer, we are always thinking about the location of our projects and how they place in the life and the design of a human experience. The location couldn't be more perfect. We are right beside the downtown theater district and adjacent to many civic buildings. And from a grander scale, we are helping create connection to other monuments downtown with the new Baptist Street improvement in the future. In regards to the design concept, we want the park to celebrate LBJ and his connection to Houston, his contribution to NASA, and his commitment to this country. To start, we have designed an inviting formal entrance from a Baptist Street on your right-hand side, and the granite wall with a couple of bronze eagles and his important quote will welcome the visitor into this park. At the end of the entranceway, we reposition and unite the two existing NASA Space Shuttle monuments. This will allow the visitors to understand both Space Shuttle stories together and create a cohesive and educational experience. And a semicircular pathway with the new benches and pylons will lead visitors toward the monument, and they basically go around behind you. Along the way, each pylon will exhibit important legislatures. We have also envisioned this to be a very interactive component, where at each pylon, visitors can actually hear LBJ's voice from excerpts of important speeches. The pathway ultimately leads to a stunning 8-foot sculpture adjacent to this tree and created by American artist Chase Fagan. It is in the center of a semicircular wall. At the monument will be LBJ's timeline and notable political achievement and important quotes. Lastly, lighting will be a very important part of this design, allowing it to be enjoyed by visitors day and night. We are taking the inspiration from the orbit of the stars as the geometry of the plan. Once complete, the park will be seen at night from the surrounding high-rise buildings. Overall, our goal through the design was to create a memorable experience to pay tribute to LBJ with downtown as our backdrop. And we know this monument will encourage visitors with all backgrounds and walks of life to come in and enjoy this wonderful park frequently and learn about the leader who gave so much to the city and the nation. Thank you.
All right, we're about ready for the symbolic groundbreaking, but before I do, I've got to thank you very much, CK. It's been a pleasure to work with you and the Gensler, Sharon and the Gensler team. I also want to point out we're working with Walter P. Moore, the civil engineer, Henderson Rogers, structural engineer, Ian Neiman Associates, MEP engineer, Boss Lighting Design. CK referred to the lighting consultant. Lauren Griffiths, where are you, Lauren? I saw you walk in a while ago. Who is our landscape architect, and of course Bellows. We are thank you so much, Laura and Jack, and we look forward to working with you. So with that, oh, by the way, let's see. I want to recognize Gene Wu, state representative, has walked in, and John Nugent, the chairman of HAR, Houston Area Realtors. So now I invite, let's see, we have enough shovels. Mayor, Lucy, myself, David, Arthur, let's see, from our Laura, representing Bellows, and CK. I think that David. We'll see if we have enough for everyone. Let's come up and do this.
It isn't. Thank you so very much. Thank you. And I was
Nobody can see.
Well, I don't know how forgiving they are for bugs.
Somebody need to.
So should we do this on 3?
Oh, wait. Somebody's still working over there.
1, 2, 3.
Got it?
Yep.
3. 1, 2.